On today's episode, I'm working with ON1 Photo RAW 2022. This is going to be a full RAW edit. I'll be processing a field of sunflowers. Hey, there might even be a sky replacement. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate each and every one of you that tune in each time I put up a new tutorial. Today we're taking a look at ON1 Photo RAW 2022. It's a great processor and I wanted to do a full edit today just to show you the power of Photo RAW. You know, some of you don't use Photoshop or Lightroom, and ON1 Photo RAW is a very good alternative, and I'll show you that today. I have a bunch of sunflower images, and I want to work on this guy right here. I'm going to double click it, and that will open it up in the editing section, and we are under develop right now. Now, the first thing I like to do is come down to lens corrections and make sure that it finds my lens. Now, it has not found my lens because you can see here's my lens. It's a 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8L lens. It's a Canon lens. I'm using a Canon 5D Mark II, so it's an older camera. It doesn't have that lens. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come down to, see where it says lens profile, auto. It normally will pick that for you, but it can't find mine, so it says no match. So I'm going to click the drop down and come under Canon, and I'm going to find something that is close to that. And so now let's click on the lens. I'll click this other drop down, and it's a 24 to 70 millimeter, and it's a USM. So 24 to 70, it's an f2.8, by the way, USM. And it is just the USM, but it is an L lens. So I'm going to pick this one. And yeah, I think that's close enough. I think that's going to be okay. But that's the first thing I do. And then I like to come up to noise and sharpening and just click, and that opens up. And now they have a new noise reduction piece of software called NoNoise Ai. And it is really good. It's right on par with Topaz Denoise AI. And it is a part of ON1 Photo RAW 2022. You can also get it as a standalone app. And then they also have just classic noise removal and sharpening, just like you would find, say, like in Lightroom right here. But we're going to use the NoNoise AI today, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And you'll notice it zooms your image into 100% so that you can really check it out and look for noise. I'm going to zoom in even further here so you can see. And you notice also it gives you the split screen here. So if I take this, you can see like the before and after, and you can see it's sharpening up the image too. Now, I don't know if you can see this here, but it's doing some kind of a weird artifacting in here. It's dealing with the enhanced detail. Now, this doesn't happen on all images, but on this one, it really does because, I don't know, it might be these intricate patterns here on this sunflower. So on this image, I found that it's best to take that enhanced detail and just shut it the whole way off. We still have a very sharp image here, as you can see as I drag this across. See the sunflower over here, so it's very sharp. But what I may do is just bump up on the sharpening a little bit here, just to add a little bit of extra sharpness in here. This image is really sharp, by the way. And now we can come here and click fit and fit the screen. And, you know, here is the before on the left and the after on the right as I drag this across. But you can see it removed all the noise, and now we sharpened up the image. So play with this enhanced detail. It'll bring back some extra detail, but you got to be careful with it because you can get some weird effects if you're too strong on that. So I just want to give you a little warning there. So be careful with that one. And then when you're done, all you need to do is click apply, and it will apply that noise reduction and sharpening. And now we can come up to the tone and color, which is part of the raw processing. Now, I just want to say right off the bat here that I am just starting to work with this piece of software, so I'm still learning its ins and outs a little bit here. But anyway, we have this in tone, we have manual where we can go ahead and adjust everything ourselves. And then we have AI Match. What AI Match does is it looks like the back of the camera by matching the embedded preview that comes along with the RAW file. And I believe that's a JPEG file that comes along with that RAW file. Let me go ahead and click AI Match. That would be like the back of my camera right there. So if you like the look in the back of your camera, you may want to use that, or you can use AI Auto. Now let me click on AI Auto. It uses artificial intelligence to adjust your image, much like if you've used Lightroom before and the artificial intelligence in Lightroom does this for you as well. But this does a really nice job, and it's a really good starting point, but I'll touch it up from here. With both AI Auto and AI Match, you have this auto slider here. So if you felt that adjustment was too strong, you could start to slide back, kind of like pulling back on the opacity, which is a really nice feature. But notice when I move it, you notice all these sliders are moving in conjunction with it. So that's pretty cool. It's doing a really nice job. As I said, this is a really great piece of software. It's looking pretty good. I think I might pull my highlights back just a little bit, not much. Maybe I'll pull the exposure back slightly. Not a whole lot there either, like 0.05. I think I may warm it up slightly, not much here. And I think right about here looks pretty good. And as far as tint, I think that looks good. Now saturation, I think that looks good, and vibrance is looking pretty good. I'm not going to touch those. Now you'll notice down here you also have purity. So if you hover over this slider, it tells you reduces the color saturation of highlights to remove a color cast. So if you had a color cast in your highlights, you could reduce that color cast by dragging this to the right. And the same with the shadow. So that's a nice addition to this software. And a couple other nice features to note. We have Recover Highlight Hue. This attempts to bring the color back in overexposed highlights when you reduce the highlight slider, so you can check that on if you're having an issue like that. And you also have Reduce Vibrance on Skin. And what this does, it reduces the effect of vibrance on the skin. So that's a nice added feature as well, so you could check that on if you had some people in your image. Also, I forgot to tell you, you have some different profiles here. You have the ON1 standard, landscape, portrait, and so on. And when you hover over these, they change so you can see the effects. And then they have for your camera, landscape, matching your camera, and so on and so forth. And they also have a linear raw. And if you're a regular viewer of my YouTube channel, you know I love linear profiles. And we have them here in ON1 Photo RAW 2022. But today, I'm just going to stick with the ON1 standard. But I think that's a good thing to do because a lot of you are not familiar possibly with linear profiles, so let's work with the standard profile. Today's not a full rundown of ON1 Photo RAW 2022, but I just wanted to process this image and just show you how cool this piece of software really is. Now this sky, you got to admit, is kind of boring. It's bald, it's white. You know, I can recover a little bit of detail here. But instead of doing that, there's not many clouds in the sky, or it's filled with clouds, I should say, and it's just all white, basically. But let me go ahead and do a sky replacement. Now, you'll notice up here, we have Develop, Effects, Sky, Portrait, and Local. I'll be working today with Local, and I've already worked with Develop. I'll work with Effects, and I'll also work with Sky. So let me click on Sky, and we're going to go ahead and replace this sky. The first thing I want you to notice, see where it says Sky Swap AI. Now this works with artificial intelligence. If I click on this mask, you can see that my sky has been selected for me. I just clicked on View. You can actually see it's in white, so it's selected. I'm going to click View again. Let's click this again right here and get rid of the mask. We don't need to see it right now, but we have some presets here. We have night sky, storm, clouds, and sunset. Obviously, I just want to use a regular cloudy sky today, but if you click on more, you can see we have other things in here as well, other presets, okay? Oh, and by the way, when you hover over them, you can see what kind of effect you would get with those particular presets, okay? Which is kind of nice. I'm going to open up clouds, and I want to go to clouds. Now, I have one in mind here, and that was cloud 016. Where is it? I just got to find it. Right here. I'm going to use this cloudy sky right here. And I think it really fits this scene. I'm not going to get too in depth here because I'll be honest with you, this sky really looks good. But we have a lot of different adjustments. Like we can position the horizon of the sky. I'll just show you. If I move this, you can see I can move this sky up or down. Okay. And we can adjust the opacity of the sky, you know, fade it out a little bit. And I might just do that. Just something like that. We can shift the edge. We can fade the edge. We can warm it up a little bit. We can make it brighter. We can blur that sky a little bit. And I think it matches the scene pretty well because I shot this with f16, but I could blur the sky if I wanted to, as you can see. We can adjust the angle of the blur, and then we can work with the lighting. Now, right now, you'll notice the lighting is in the multiply blend mode. If I change it to screen, you can see everything gets light. That doesn't look right, so it's multiplies the right one. Now, you'll notice this color block right here. This is representing the sky color. Now, you could change it by clicking the picker tool here and picking a different color here. And basically what I think it is, this color will be fading in from the sky into the transitional area, into the top part of the foreground here where the sky meets the foreground. And then we're in the multiply blend mode, so if I drag this to the right, it's going to darken up that area, as you can see, but it's going to add that light blue color cast over that area, which would be very natural. Now, if you double click this, you'll set it back to its original position. And same with the distance. If I adjust this distance, well, let me drag this more to the right again so you can see. If I drag this distance, if I drag it to the right, it'll take it further down into the image. And if I drag it to the left, it'll pull it up. Can you see it moving up? But I'm going to double click this because I think it was set properly, and I'm going to double click on amount. But that just adds that bluish tint over that transitional zone there. And it also adjusts the lighting. We're in the multiply blend mode, so it's going to darken this transitional zone just a little bit. And one final adjustment, and this is very important concerning skies, and that is the position, depending which way the lighting is. Right now, I think the lighting is coming in from the left. This image was shot around 1030, but I think it'll be proper here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but be kind if I am, okay? Anyway, you can change the position by clicking these arrows here. So that'll just flop it horizontally. And let me go ahead and put it back because I think that's right. And now we can move on. The next thing I want to do is work with some local adjustments. So I'm going to click on Local. Now, you can add a whole bunch of local adjustments. I don't know how many you can add, but I don't even know if there's a limit, to be honest with you. And this is basically going to let you adjust things locally. How about that? A local adjustment, you can adjust locally. To me, the power of the local adjustments is the masking and the masking tools, which are really nice, and they're super powerful here in ON1 Photo RAW. Probably some of the best in the business, other than Photoshop and the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, which is far superior, but this is pretty good for a standalone piece of software. So check this out. These are all presets up here, and if you click on more, there's more presets in here, okay? And right now, it's defaulted with the exposure down at -1. I'm going to double click this and reset this back because I want to do my own adjustments. But you notice we have exposure, contrast, highlights, you know, your typical stuff, structure, dehazing, noise removal, or add or reduce noise or film grain. And then we have temperature, tint, and vibrance, and we can even paint with color. So it's pretty powerful stuff. But I want to get into the actual layer masking. So let's click on this layer mask. And inside of here, you'll notice we have invert, reset, copy, lumen, which is for luminosity mask. I'll get to the luminosity masks in a bit, but for now, I'm going to work with color range mask because what I want to do is adjust these foreground leaves. I think they're a little light. I want to darken them up a bit, but we have something very cool in here called color range. And what I'm going to do is click on color range here, and you see this eyedropper tool. I'm going to click on it and click on some of the green on my leaves here. Now it's selected those leaves, and if I come here and click on view, you can see the leaves that are selected. Now here's a very cool slider, color range. We can broaden out that range, picking up more of the greenish tones, or we can narrow it by moving it into the left. So I'm going to move it in like somewhere right around in here. Now it's picking the background up here, which I don't want, and it's picking up some of the centers of these sunflowers, which I don't want, but I'll show you what I'll do. I'm going to get a paintbrush tool, and right now it's on paint out. Normally it's set to paint in. I'm going to put it to paint out, and I have 100% feathering, so a very soft brush, 100% opacity and flow. And I'm going to make my brush a little bigger by using my right bracket key. And what I want to do is just simply paint out this top portion of the image here. So we can use the color range, and we can also use brush tools, which is pretty great. So I'm just going to paint this out. And I may not be perfect here, but you get the drift. I'm doing a tutorial here, but you can see that. The other thing I want to do is remove the center. I'm going to use my left bracket key to make this smaller, of these particular sunflowers like this. I'm going to remove a couple here just to show you what I'm doing. And then I'm going to pause the video and get the rest, and then I'll get right back and we'll keep on going. And I'm back, but I want to say what's super powerful about this masking is the fact that we can view the mask and paint on the mask. That is super powerful. If you watch my TK8 Friday videos, you know how I paint on masks all the time. So this is really cool. So now what I'm going to do is go back to view. As you can see, I painted out the centers of the sunflowers. So I'm going to go back to view. And now I can simply make some adjustments. And I'll start by taking this exposure and pulling it back. And you notice it's only targeting those sunflowers. And back to like a -0.3. And then contrast, I'm going to give it a little bit of contrast. Not much, but a little wee bit of contrast. And I'll pull the shadows back a little bit to darken up the shadows. Just a little wee bit to like a minus, I'm thinking right there, a -7. And then I'll give them a little bit of structure. So I have some structure down here, so I can take this structure and I can drag it up a little bit just to add a little bit of structure, not too much, like a 25. And we have a haze in here as well. So if I take the haze and move it to the right, I can make things look more hazier, or if I move it to the left, I can remove haze. I'm going to double click it and just leave it right there. And then we also have, whoops, double click it again. We also can come down and we can work with temperature, tint, saturation, and vibrance. So we have a lot of control here. But if we take a look, here is the before and after. See this circle right here? It's blue. Here's the before and here's the after. But it's nicely targeted, just those sunflowers. And then we have an opacity. If it's too strong, you can take the overall opacity and pull it back if you need to. But I'm going to leave it up at 100%. But isn't that cool? But that's color range masking. I'm going to use it again for the sunflowers next. To add another local adjustment, just click here, Add Adjustment. And now we'll have a new local adjustment with a new mask. And by the way, everything in ON1 Photo RAW is non-destructive. So now I want to select the flowers. So let's click on the mask and let's come back to color range and check that on. And let's get the eyedropper tool. I'm going to go ahead and double click exposure, the slider, to set it back, because by default it always has like a -10 on there, which I would rather that not be, but that's just the way they do it. And so what I'm going to do with this eyedropper tool is pick some of the yellows in here, just like so. And now let's take a look at the mask by clicking on View. And look how it selected those. That's a perfect selection. You know, I could adjust the color range if I needed to. And I might just pull it in a little bit to keep it off the center parts of these flowers as much as I can. Maybe somewhere right around in there. And with my brush, in the paint out mode, I'm going to make my brush larger by tapping on the right bracket key a few times, and I'm just going to paint out. I'm not going to mess with these back flowers. I'm going to paint these guys out in here. But I love the fact that you can paint right on this mask. This is super powerful. You don't know how powerful that is until you start working with masking. So it's really, really nice. And now we can go back to view. And all I want to do here is ease back on these highlights a little bit by coming to highlights and just start to drag this into the left. A decent amount, maybe right around there. Then if I click on this blue dot, here is the before and here's the after. So it just tames down those sunflowers a little bit. Maybe not quite that much. Now you can always come back to any local adjustment and readjust them anytime you want. Now, by the way, if you click right here, you can collapse that. And you can see there's my 2 local adjustments. And now I want to work with some effects. That's the last thing I'm going to do, work with a few effects and we'll be done. So stick with me. You're going to learn some more cool things here. So let's click on effects. And to add an effect, you just click Add Filter. And I want to add a really nice effect in here called Dynamic Contrast, which is right here. So let's click on Dynamic Contrast. And by default, it is set with this setting right here. I'm going to click on Natural. I think this is the natural setting. Yeah, it is. It comes out with a natural preset. There's one called Surreal. I'll click on these so you can see them. Here's one called Soft, so you can see the different effects. And then if you go to More and you hover over these, there's like Grunge Contrast. Isn't that nice? No, I don't like that. Natural, of course, Soft and Surreal. So, and Texture Enhancer. So I'm going to just click on Natural because I like that, but I don't want to apply it everywhere. And by that, I mean the sky. You see all that extra texture in the sky? Watch when I shut this off by clicking this blue circle. See how the sky gets that nice soft cloudy look, which is what I want to retain. I'm going to turn this back on. So here's what I'm going to do. Click on the layer mask, and then you see the layer mask is white, meaning it's revealing the entire adjustment. If I right click right here and come down to Mask Sky and watch, a dialog box will come up here and it's going to select the sky. And now if I click on view, you can see how it's nicely masked out the sky. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so let's go back to view. And now when I click this blue circle, here is the before and here's the after. And now it's only on the foreground. Now if I need to make some readjustments here, and we can work with small areas of contrast, medium and large, but I'm going to leave it right the way it is. But you know, I'll just move the small up so you can see how it's adding more detail to the smaller areas of contrast, or I should say contrast, but which kind of looks like a detail. I'm going to double click this and set it back to 0 and make sure I'm on natural. But there it is. Here is the before and here's the after, but just the right amount of contrast, I think. And then if it's too much, you can always take this opacity and ease this back a little bit, but I'm going to leave it up full. And also note you have some tone adjustment, highlights and shadows, so you can adjust those, and you can adjust your whites and blacks and your vibrance. If you felt, you know, I need some more vibrance in that area, you could pull that up. I'm just going to double click it. So you have these other controls as well. But these are your big adjustments right here that you're really concerned with, your small, medium, and large areas of contrast. Now let's add another filter. So let's come up here to add filter. And this time I want to add a glow filter, kind of like an Orton effect. So I'm going to click on glow. And right now we don't see any effect on the image, but we have different presets. Normal, that's a normal glow, lighter, like a lighter glow, a darker glow, and then some presets in here. We have all kind of presets in here. Okay, Orton, here's a who. I like that one. I'm just going to use like a normal glow, but I don't want to add it to the overall image. I think I just want to add it to the shadow tones. So I'm going to come up here to the layer mask and click on it. And click on Lumen for luminosity mask. Now that's a Lights 1 luminosity mask. And if I click view, you can see it looks like a black and white image. That's what a Lights 1 luminosity mask looks like. But to get a Darks 1 luminosity mask, which is what I think I want, I need to invert this. So I'm going to click on invert. Now it's only targeting the dark areas. Now I can play with this level adjustment, which is super powerful here. And I'm so glad ON1 added this. So I can target just the tones I want. Now the way layer masks work, white reveals, black conceals, and then you have different shades of gray which will be revealed more or less. If I want to reveal more of the darker areas, I'll take this levels slider on the shadow side and start to move it to the right, and you see how it makes the shadow areas get lighter, so I can include more of those. Or if I want to include less, I can take this midtone slider and start to drag it to the left. You see that? Or if I want to include more of the midtones, I can move it to the right. But I want to restrict it to more of the darker tones, and I'm thinking maybe right there should be good. Now, if we look at this mask, you can see the sky is getting hardly any of that effect, maybe on that cloud over there. But in the foreground, just the darker tones. Now let's take a look and see what it looks like. Let's click on view. And there's my effect. Now here is the before and here's the after. Now if I want that stronger, I can take this amount and start to drag this more to the right. Okay. And if you want more of a halo effect, it gets a little more glowy, you can drag this slider to the right. I'm going to double click it and set it back. And then if you'll take a look to the bottom of this filter, if I click here where it says mode, you have different like blend modes that you can use. Right now it's using like a soft light strong. Okay, so you could change that if you wanted to, just maybe to a regular soft light. Okay, and here is the before and here's the after. So maybe tones it down just a little bit, which I think I like. And you also have this opacity that you could pull this back if you want to. So that's kind of nice. And you also have a density slider. I'm going to click on view so you can see what a density slider does. If I start to drag this back, watch how the mask changes. It's going to get lighter everywhere till it goes back to solid white. So you can, fine tune your masking with this density slider too. This is another super powerful option. I don't need it for this, but you have that as well. Now let's go back to view. And again, here is our before. And here's our after. It just gives me a little bit more punch in the foreground area. I like what it does with the colors a little bit. It's working with that soft light blend mode, and I just think it looks really nice. Again, here is the before, and here's the after. It just gives it that nice little bit of glow. The last thing I want to do is add one more filter, so let's click Add Filter. And I want to add a vignette because, most landscapes really look good with a vignette. So let's click on Vignette. And I'm going to use a vignette here from the presets. And this is a popular one with ON1 users, and that's Big Softy. So I'm going to click on Big Softy, and it's a preset, but it's way too strong. But I'm going to tame it down with a luminosity mask. If you watch my TK Friday videos, you know I always like to protect my shadows when I'm using vignettes, and I can do it here very effectively as well. And there's two different ways I can achieve this. One is not my favorite, and the other one is. I'll do my least favorite first. And to do that, click on this gear icon here, and come down here where it says Highlight, Shadows, and Skin. Come to Shadows, and you'll protect your shadows by dragging this slider to the right. And when I do that, you see how the shadows are protected. Now, if I shut off the vignette by clicking this blue circle, there's the before and there's the after. So that's okay, and it does an all right job, but I'll show you a better way. I'm going to double click this and reset it. Here's the better way. Come up to the layer mask, click on the layer mask, and simply click Lumen for a Lights 1 luminosity mask. And now I'll shut this layer off. Here's the before, and here's the after. But look how nicely it protects the shadow areas in here. And if you wanted them protected even more, you could take this level slider, take the midtones and drag it more to the right, and it'll protect even more, okay? But I'm just going to double click it, and I find by not touching it, it's usually just perfect. So again, here is the before and here's the after. Now, it's messing up my sky. I don't want any vignette up in the sky, and I'll show you how I take care of that. All you need to do is click on View, so now you're viewing your mask. And what I want to do is paint out this sky. And make sure you're in the paint out mode. I'm going to get myself a nice big brush. I'll use my right bracket key, and I'll simply just paint out that effect up here in the sky. Come down into here and just paint across these trees, because there's no vignette in this area anyway, right in here. Up into here. And right like that. Okay, and now let's click on View. So now you see I've protected it from the sky. So here is the before, and here is the after. So I only need the vignette down here. And if it's too strong, you can take this opacity and start to slide this back if you need to. But I like it up full. But just by adding that Lights 1 luminosity mask, or just the basic luminosity mask, there it is, before and after. But it's just that simple. Now let's look at an overall before and after. So if you come down to the lower left-hand side, see where it says Preview, and click this, there's our before, and here's our after. A pretty dramatic change. And also see where you have this, looks like an A. If you click here, then you have the split screen where you can drag this across, and you can see the before and after as well. Click it again, and you'll be back to your finished result. But there you go. That was a full edit on this sunflower image using ON1 Photo RAW 2022. And I wanted to introduce you to a full edit today, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed the tutorial today, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon, and that way every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!